Good morning. Hey, good people. Good to see you. Welcome to Tales from the Shaker, Davia Williams Stevenson podcast. It feels like it has been a minute, and I am so glad to be back. And I have got, I always got somebody special. So I got a really bad brother over here. Pastor Derrick Holmes has agreed to sit in the chair, and we're going to talk about some things. I'm going to let you know a little bit about him, and then we're going to see where the conversation flows. This is unscripted. This is real. We are authentic, and we're convinced that something will come out of our conversation that will inspire you to shake up some things in your own life. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit about Pastor Derrick, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate your being here. Pastor Derrick is the senior pastor. Did you call senior pastor? Is that what you would say?
Senior pastor.
Yeah, of Union Grove Baptist Church in Columbus, Ohio, a historic church that's had a long history of community engagement and social action, and he is the man to lead it. That is your heart, Praise and it God. Is coming across. He is a graduate of Eastmore High School. Now known as Eastmore Academy. I do know that. You went on to attend Wright State. You have a bachelor's in English with a specialization in African American history. That comes through. I should have guessed that. I would have asked that. You've obtained a certificate in leadership of action and social change at Phillips Theological Seminary, working towards a master's degree in pastoral leadership. I see that. Fantastic. This man is also talented. He writes poetry and essays. He's written social critiques, and he has a book called, let me make sure I get it right. It is After the Benediction. I love that. Practical Insights for Christian Living, a 40-day Afrocentric devotional reading. Another thing that I know is near and dear to your heart, and mine as well, as a clinician, a licensed therapist, is your counseling. Yeah. And we talked earlier before the cameras start rolling about the disconnect between mental health and spiritual health, and that our mental health is part of our being. It's part of our image bearing, right? So we have to, we're the only part of creation, only part of God's creation that has critical thinking skills and has this level depth of emotion. Yeah. And so our mental health is part of, in my opinion, is part of our image bearing.
Yeah, it matters.
It absolutely matters. There's so much I could do. And you said you don't have to do all that. I know. He said, I was born a place, did some things, went to school, wrote a book. I know, but there's so much more. And one of the things I hope that we get into in our conversation today is in this space and time in our country, there are a lot of folks who feel like we need some direction. Yeah. We're feeling like we're under, many of us, I say Black folks for sure. I know there are others who feel under attack almost every day. Mm-hmm. And we need visionaries like you, people with a voice like yours, with a background like yours, with a heart and passion like yours, to help to give us some direction or even some encouragement for the fight ahead. Yeah. So I am thrilled to, let's start our conversation in that space, if that's okay with you.
No, that's perfectly fine. Great. Well, first, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm a fan of yours. I just think you do amazing work.
Thank you.
We don't need this to talk to each other.
We don't.
We don't need this to talk to each other, and just this marriage of head and heart. Where it's not either or, it's both and how you show up, whether that's in the counseling space. I've had the privilege of seeing you in the facilitation space that somehow became group therapy space, right? So just kind of see you navigate all of that in a very beautiful and I believe spirit-led way.
Thank you.
It was just really a privilege to watch, and I just think the world of you. I don't take this for granted. So thank you for having me. I appreciate what you said. I think it's a great place to take off, kind of the moment that we're in. I don't think we're in a new moment. I think that we're in a moment where our posture to it has to be new, right? I think that it's resonating with us differently. Kind of like, something bad happens. Oh, I didn't like it. And then it happens again. No, I said I didn't like it. Yeah. And then it happens again. Why does this keep happening? And now I think we're in a moment, hey, this happens. We're tired of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
And I think
that's a good description.
I think that's where we are now. And I think the movement And I use that word intentionally because we think about the experience of American Africans historically, and we hold up, especially in February, right? We hold up kind of our benefits from the movement, civil rights movement, women's movement, right? We articulate it in a way to where the movement happens as this grandiose thing. We're announcing the movement is happening, right? And I don't think it's ever been that. I think it's just been this natural progression where you go, okay, we're tired of it.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to do. And then the movement happens. And I think we're in that moment. And in some weird way, that's actually the part that I'm most excited about.
Okay.
I'm grateful to the Most High to be living in this moment. I'm grateful to be pastoring in this moment. I'm grateful to be able to organize and engage in productive activism. My grandfather, I grew up in a house with activists in my household.
Okay.
And I learned very early, you don't activate without an agenda. Otherwise, you're just agitated, right? If you're just mad and you just do a thing.
I'm so glad this is recorded because I'm gonna write that down. That right? was good. Otherwise, you're just agitated.
Otherwise, you're just agitated, right? Like there's a reason that you do a thing, right? And we can track history and know that historically there were reasons why there was a reason a march happened. There was a reason a protest happened. There was a reason an action happened because there was something that was supposed to come out of it. And I'm really grateful to be in a moment where our activation, our agendas, our demonstrations, what we choose to do, what we choose not to do, what we choose to pray, how we choose to show up, is lending to some real result. And I'm grateful to be in these conversations. I'm grateful to be a parent in these conversations and say, hey, when you get older, because evil ain't gonna stop. Right?
Evil ain't gonna stop.
Evil ain't gonna stop. It's how we show up and what we have behind us that actually keeps pushing the needle forward.
Yeah. And the antidote or the resistance to evil.
Absolutely,
is love.
Is love.
Let me ask you about this. You talk about organizing, right? So I certainly believe that the great power is in community.
Sure.
Do you find in this day and age, when so much of our communication is through devices, through a lens, is it harder to build actual community, or should we revision how we see community? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's the latter. I think we should revision how we see community. It's crazy how the Holy Spirit is in all of this. I was talking with production literally before we got on about this very thing. There's this thinking that around community. Well, let me scale back. One of the benefits of the best of what it means to be Black and what it means to be part of our culture is this deep sense of community. We experience it when we come to church. We experience it when we go to the beauty salon. We experience it when we go to the barbershop. We experience it when we go to the cookout. There's something inherent to the Black experience, to the American African experience that's connected to community. We crystallize it in a certain type of way because we haven't had the advent of technology, right? So we isolate it to this type of thing, and then all of a sudden, social media happens in a very powerful way. The internet happens in a very powerful way, and there's more information. It's easier to connect, and it's no longer as communal. In fact, what it is that the community is expanded. So now it's not just my block. It's not just my neighborhood, right? It's not just even my region or my city. I can live here and connect with someone in Norway, right? The community has expanded. And I think the opportunity in that is just to reimagine how we think about community. The reason why I think it's important to form it that way is because when we isolate community to this insular thing, then we make presumptions about the people who aren't in the ideation I've created. So when I believe that community is just this, then it only is the people that I imagine it there. So then I start to demonize younger folk who maybe don't do community the way that I do it.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
Right?
Yes,
so the truth is that there's a generation below both of us that actually very much values community. They just navigate it on their phone. They feel a way if you don't follow back. They feel a way, right, if you leave them unread, right? Because, and it's not because you're trying to govern somebody's life. It's because I want to be in community with you. I want to be connected with you. And I think there is an amazing opportunity for the moment that we're in to be thinking more deeply and really reimagine what community can look like. I'll give you an example real quick. When all of that happened with Mike Brown in Ferguson, and I remember this so vividly, I and other clergy were down in Ferguson 2 days later. it was just this really amazing thing that kind of happened, like this travesty, this public lynching had happened, the insidious nature of leaving a body in a community as a message to everyone else about how unimportant Black life is. Before it even gets to Mike Brown, the number of institutional things that had happened in that community to really disparage, devalue Black life. And it was the culmination of it was kind of in this moment. And without any coordination, there were just all these clergy of Christ and consciousness, people from different faith traditions all just showed up in this space saying that we want to activate around how wrong this is and we want to love on this space. So literally it was a week of people just holding hands and praying together and comforting random strangers, just pulling them close, say, hey, we gonna be all right. We were listening to Kendrick while we were there, right? It became the anthem of the movement during that time frame. And a lot of that started in Ferguson, right? We were sitting there in the moment. Again, it was like 2 days later and we were all just sitting there praying. And I happened to have my phone with me. We had got done praying and I felt something hit my chest, right? My eyes were closed, just felt something hit my chest, right? And I looked around because I'm from New York. You're not going.
I ain't going to hit my chest.
I love Jesus. I will fight you. Listen, I love the Lord. He heard my cry. My God wants me to be okay. I would have that you would prosper. My prosperity does not involve me being harmed, right? So I look up, I'm ready to get active. And I look and there's a gas grenade that's on the ground.
Oh.
And so the police had thrown gas while we were peacefully praying in the middle of the street, right? So it was this real crazy type of thing that kind of happened. You know, the reason why they throw tear gas is because the way the smoke is when it's in a crowd, the oxygen actually kills it, but there's less oxygen when you're in a crowd. That's why they use it to control a crowd. By the way, you spend enough time activating, you learn some of this stuff, right? Like how if you put milk on your face, it helps, right? Just all these other things that you learn across the board, right?
Science. Science. That's another thing.
Science, right? So all of this happens and we break out, right? Kind of to leave, not to run, but like, we know what we came here for, let's just go retreat. We'll be back here a little bit later. There was a neighboring church about a block and a half up the way. And we go and the pastor of the church had put on this TV. We're talking about community. We go ahead and we show up at the church and there's a TV that's on. And on the news, they're saying that these violent Black people are here in Ferguson demonstrating and tearing up. They're disrespecting the police. They showed up and they're doing all these mean and horrible things. Right. And so we're sitting there like, that's crazy. But then on our phones, there are people who are live tweeting like, nah, the news is lying. Them people was down here praying. No, they ain't doing that. No, that's not what's happening. No, we're still hurting. We're hurting too much to be angry right now. We haven't even gotten to where we want to tear stuff up yet. So there was something valuable about that type of community that was connected to truth telling. Mm-hmm. If that community doesn't exist, if we devalue it, then maybe the movement doesn't happen in that way. So I think that's an example of how we should be reimagining community. The word was able to get out quicker. And by the way, curiously enough, hours later than that same media outlet issued an apology because they had reported erroneous information, right? When we're reimagining community, it helps us convey information quickly, more rapidly. It creates a level of accountability. I just think there's a really great opportunity around it.
Season.
Yeah.
George Floyd,
exactly. Yeah.
Without that courageous young sister who was taping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to see it too, right? There's something that happens when it makes it more real. It's not just happening to them. It makes it real time for us.
What an inclusive perspective. When you talk about reimagining, like that, the value of that. I think about, I belong to some organizations that are heritage organizations.
Sure.
You pastor a heritage church, 136-year church, and there are generational struggles and how we see things. I think about some of the organizations that I'm in, and some of the many of them came to fruition in the early 1900s, right after Frederick Douglass died, and there needed to be a voice, and things come for a reason. There's a reason why there are all these Black Greek-led organizations. It wasn't just to emulate the white people and have this thing.
Right.
It came from a response to a void.
That
But there were, procedures and rules and protocols and things that helped to establish identity.
Yeah.
And as we're in these generational struggles, I think all of these organizations are in them to some degree. There's a tension between that ain't necessary for me to be here and useful in this place versus this is how we do it. And it's been part of our identity. It's how we know who we are.
Oh my goodness.
Right? This is the way it's been. This is how we do it. Right. And so how you find value in listening to the younger generation, without them, the thing dies.
Right.
The movement died. I remember my mom saying, this might not make sense to a whole lot of folk, but when we got our first microwave, and my mother was quite a cook, and I remember her making a comment. We were talking about generational stuff. She said, well, you can't make chitlins in the microwave. And I'm like, we ain't making chitlins anyway. But I got what she meant. It's like, some of this is going to be lost.
Right.
Due to progress. And so one of my most precious possessions, actually, that my mother left was a cookbook. Wow. Handwritten with our favorite recipes. So should I get inspired to make chitlins again, which I did some years ago, I could make Thelma's chitlins, and they were some of the best ones around.
Sure.
But that thing about how do we value, how do we bring in, not just endorse, but embrace processes, different types of communication. That's good. I think I come from a lens that our screens are tearing us apart. But that's because it was new to me.
Sure.
And I use it as a different type of device, different type of different purpose. It was tool. That's the word I'm looking for. That's good. That's good. So as you are participating in, I know there were a number of pastors and all that came together not too long ago in response to some neo-Nazis that were walking down the street in downtown Columbus. Yeah. And there's been many of those incidents as of late around the country. They seem very much emboldened.
Right.
And
I wonder why.
I wonder.
Isn't that weird? Time. Just all of a sudden, weird. Just comfortable. It's weird.
They still cover their faces a lot.
Hiding.
Which is so interesting. But your response, I know that you were amongst these men. Is this the group of 100? What were you?
It was different organizations. Okay, so the 100 was part of it. And there was a clarion call. And I'll give you the context for it.
Yeah, please, yes.
So that happened in a neighborhood maybe 10 minutes from where our church is. For those who were watching Columbus, Ohio, that happened in the short north. So, and our church is on the Near East Side. I have members who live over there, right? Yeah. And so it had happened on a Saturday.
Saturday morning.
It happened on a Saturday morning, and had heard and gotten wind of it. And I, on a personal note, was very frustrated not only by kind of the moment, but I had members who were talking about, this was scary. I pastor a historic church, and we have all generations at our church, and there are members of our church who come out of a certain framework where that took them back to the 50s and 60s, right? There's this thinking that only happened in the South. No, there was down South and down North, right? It was a real thing that was going on nationally. And it took a lot of them. So I was already in prayer kind of around that I was going to address and, just kind of try to deal with it as best I can in my context. True story. I had reached out to a couple of friends of mine, just kind of passingly, just, hey, this is crazy. We should be praying. Hey, let's be in conversation about what the next move should be. What should be the thing? There should be a response. I bet, we just going to go ahead and pray. We just, right? I'm sitting in service. I have my phone out during worship because we have members who watch online. I try to marry the technological with the more communal. Okay. So for people who watch online, if you're watching Union Grove Baptist Church online and you check in and put a heart, I'm like, hey, good to see you. God bless you. Look,
you're texting from the pulpit?
I'm real time.
Okay.
I'm real time. Look, I have my phone with me the whole time. So listen,
the man was talented. That's some multitasking.
You are talking right back to the pastor. Hey, good to see you. Hey, I missed you last week. Sometimes we have people who are sick and shut in and they checking in on work. So they get to talk to the pastor and make them part of community, right? Yes. I'm sitting there with my phone and we're in worship. The choir is singing their the song before the sermon. And the phone's on D&D, so I'm normally checking it. And I believe this to be the Lord. I had logged off and I was beginning to look at my notes, and I just happened to push the box where the message is. When it's on D&D, the alerts don't show up. And when I clicked on it, was a message from my guy, said, hey, we're getting together at 4:00. We're going to go down there and march in the same place that they did in the name of what's right. And justice is going to be our response. What do you think? And I wish I had a more dignified. I was like, "Oh, sign me up, cuz I'm there, right?"
Yeah,
Go ahead, right? And so that literally, and so organically, it was just that. It was just a text thread of maybe a couple folk who sent to a couple of other folk who texted a couple of other people, and then it was all of us, different BGLOs, different organizations. NAACP was there, right? Just different representation from all over. Folk who ain't got no organization, who just cared about having a righteous response to what happened. And the beauty of that for me was on a couple of levels. I believe in affirming everyone's agency, but it blessed me that it was a bunch of Black men.
Yes. I will tell you, there was a sense of, for me personally, not only pride, but safety.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, the brothers got me.
Yeah.
Like they are not going to let people run amok in our streets.
Yeah.
They're not going to let that statement just stand without letting you know, listen, we're here.
Yeah.
And this is our neighborhood. And we're going to cover this with the only thing that combats it.
That's it.
Which is squaring up, bringing in the Lord, and standing for justice.
We prayed before we went out.
I know you did. Yeah.
We prayed before we went out. We all determined it was going to be a silent thing. We're not going to go chant. We are just naming that this is our neighborhood. It's our community. We're not going to tolerate this. We can't help how the police react to it. We can't help how the people who don't wear their hoods react to it. But this is how we're going to show up with regard to that. And the number of people who affirmed us, that's right. Right, members of our community and members who are not. Yeah,
people in the businesses along.
Right, exactly.
You can see them in the windows.
They were in the windows, waving and supporting folk driving by, blowing their horns. It was just a really beautiful thing for us to be able to do in that way, and by God's grace, garnered the right type of attention.
Yeah,
nobody was trying to, ambulance chase or anything like that. But after the fact, it really garnered national news. And I think it was, in fact, if you think about the moment we're in now, right, where I think there's a real need for kind of resistance to what's going on. And I would like to think that we were modeling that in a certain type of way specific to where we are. It was really something powerful.
It was very powerful. I know even with this platform that I have, it's, it's not huge, it's growing, it's engaged. I have wrestled with, what should be my response? How should I communicate in a way that's authentic? What are I'm just being real authentic right now. We're vulnerable. What might I be afraid of?
Yeah.
Would I be afraid of losing followers? I think part of my, I say thoughtfulness, I want to think of it that way, is it's so hard to know you have good information.
Sure.
And I know I want to be sure that I'm not I don't disseminate disinformation or misinformation, but I could share more about the personal, emotional struggle living as a Black woman in this time.
Sure.
It's confusing. Things feel so outlandish. I don't know fully well, I know where I stand. That's not true. I do know where I stand. I don't know where I belong in regard to leading, serving, promoting safety. So I do this. Yeah. I want to make sure you're okay.
That's it.
That mental health space. I want to make sure that head, heart are connected so that you are fortified for the fight.
Absolutely.
Whichever lane your fight takes you. And so right now, I know that's where I'm going to sit. I do feel a stirring that I might need to be bolder. Well, and I'm not sure what that is. I want to respond to it, though. Right. I mean, I feel the Lord he don't lead me wrong.
Well, can I
Doesn't mean he leads me easy, but he don't lead me wrong.
No, I think you're right. I think you're so right. And let me affirm you that I think historically there's been a need for that. And we always haven't been attentive to the emotional, psychological effects of oppression, of long-standing oppression. Right? Post-traumatic slavery syndrome is a real thing, right? The Malcolm X asked the question, who taught you to hate yourself, right? He was speaking to, the psychological effects of this. And many times we benefit from the people who came before us, who were doing work and marching and demonstrating and protesting, often the majority of the time at their own expense. but we don't always talk to some of the things emotionally, psychologically that they had to sacrifice in that. So, you know, we celebrate Dr. King as we should, right? And there are people who hold up the timbre and tone of his voice, but maybe don't spend time with the fact that that man was clinically depressed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't him trying to, you know, use his preaching voice. No, he was almost suicidal, right? Like we're not always talking to that part. And so I say that because there's a need for what you're doing. Now, look, we never want to get ahead of God. Whatever it is God telling you to do,
I feel you.
You do it, and you do it like you're doing it for cable TV, right? But there is a need to be addressing and be attentive to our own care. Think about what happened when I don't say his name, and I won't for the next 4 years. But when that person was reelected, there was a real moment of silence.
There was. Just
across the board. Organizations, there was just and the reason why, and again, that's why I'm so grateful to be in this moment, is because I think we just collectively understood that, we just need a minute.
You need a minute.
We just need, look, we're still going to be with it. We still going to be about the struggle. For those of us who really care about this, you know, we'll go ahead and be about it. You know, I preach every week. There was no way in the world I wasn't going to talk about this reality. You were privy to this. We mobilized very heavily around what it meant for us to go vote. And history will record that we were on the right side of a thing, regardless of whatever happens, right? But there was this collective we need a minute. We need to be able to cry. We need to be able to be mad. We need to be able to use whatever Saturday night words we want to use, right? We just need a minute. And that's part of health and wellness and care. And even deeper, the divine gives us the freedom to do that. And I think that that's part of what it means to be liberated. It's not being free on your terms or free on the oppressor's terms. I don't have to sound like you.
I don't have to sound like you.
Because who the sun sets free, I know we on the pod.
Free indeed.
Listen, come on. That is in the book, right? So,
yes, it is.
So I want to affirm you because what you're doing is rich work.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah. Wow. I am rarely without words to say you are such a dynamic man. I told you the first time I saw you was on my friend's show, News in Motion.
Sure.
And I'm like, who that? You know, you weren't the pastor at that time in Union Grove. Right. I don't know what you did or why you showed up, how she knew you, but your intellect is keen, and your breadth of knowledge. You can quote Kendrick and the Bible, and you know, like just so expansive, and even the subtle things you do in your language. American Africans, you did that on purpose a couple of times. I saw that. We were talking about in your church, women are able to serve in all capacities, and we were talking about deacons, and you used the word woman. Deacon as opposed to deaconess.
Right.
Some folks will get that, and some won't. But just the affirmation of the personhood of every individual that God has created. I hear that from you.
Amen.
And I think your choice to be so expanded in the information that you take in and take in and assimilate is more evidence of the fact that you respect the person, that you see that a multiplicity of perspectives and life experiences, they're all valuable. I used to say, actually, this is a quote from my mom, you can learn something from anybody. Anybody.
That's right.
Some lessons you want to take and use, some lessons are like, that's not for me.
Right.
Some things you can learn. I learned things from my 3-year-old granddaughter. I learned much about freedom from my 3-year-old granddaughter, about being present, about asking for your needs. She cries when she's hurt, when she's sad, when she needs to cry. She asks for food when she's hungry, right? She curls up and gets a hug or kisses on you or crawls on you when she wants affection. She's free to do that. And somehow over time, life messages take over and we lose our ability to be free to be who we are in our experience. And there's something about the way that you embrace that that I think is very powerful. I will be lifting you up personally. I think you have a voice and a presence that needs to be heard. I think it's going to be heard. I think it's being heard. I think things are going
to God be the glory.
And that part, and to God be the glory, is not just a catchphrase.
That's such a dope thing you said around navigating with your children and the understanding and what you learn from them. I tell people on a regular basis, I understand God better as a parent.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I understand parenting that help me understand the way God navigates with us. If you'd have asked me, I'd have been like, oh yeah, I get it. You know, God rules and super rules. Ways of God are above our own, right? It makes sense fundamentally, but there's something experiential that happens when you parent.
Yeah.
You know, you can't tell your 3-year-old about structural oppression and institutional racism, right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I just need some milk, right?
Yeah, but I can teach her to love her hair.
I can teach you, right? Exactly. I can affirm your agency.
Yeah.
Right. I can make sure that you feel safe.
Yeah.
I can make sure that you're in the best context possible.
Yeah.
To learn and grow and mature into all that God would want you to be. Right. I can have my bias toward what it is that I want you to do, but I can love you even when you're not doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Look. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Insider. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Like I can do.
Yeah.
I can do all of those things, and I just appreciate you. I wanted to hold space for that because what you said that resonated with me very heavily. I understand God better as a father.
Yeah.
I understand God better because of my children.
Yeah.
It's a real fascinating thing that you just say smart stuff all the time, but that one, that was a bar. That was a bar.
Thank you. There's so much more. I want to ask you if you would be willing at some point to come back on the show. There's much to do.
Absolutely.
I know that you've got plans. There are people you're mobilizing and plans that you have. You were talking about, what were you talking about? Blackout Wednesday? What were you, there was something
so
share some of those things with people.
I think that the moment that we're in requires a righteous response. And I think the indictment of the modern Black church is that we talk about, but we aren't doing anything. And because of the impotency of our function, it lends to the work of the oppressor. That's the indictment outside of the church, right? All y'all do is get together, y'all just dress, you don't do nothing.
Being performative.
It's just performative, right? It's a show. I would invite that person to maybe study a little bit of history, right? Because historically, these movements have sprung out of the Black church, right? Our leaders have sprung out of the Black church. Most of our institutions come out of the Black church. The Black church is the oldest Black institution in the United States, right? Period, by far, across denomination, right? But that's a fair critique. That's a fair critique, right? And what I really feel gripped by is by making sure that the congregation that I have the privilege of serving is actually committed to doing work that lends toward liberation. What I'm going to be announcing, so you're hearing it first. It's live here on Tales from the Shaker. But we're going to be, and there are other churches around the country that are actually doing this as well. I've just been in some really rich conversations about what a movement looks like. And we're going to be starting Buy Black Wednesdays. Okay. So every Wednesday, no matter what it is you're doing, buy from somewhere Black. Buy from we need to be controlling our resources in this moment. Yeah. And we shouldn't allow the disrespect of being disqualified by the oppressor. And then we show back up with our dollars. We can't let that be the norm. And so we also understand that it may take somebody time to get to that place. So we want to create the framework. Every Wednesday, buy Black. If you go get something to eat, buy it from a Black restaurant. It's going to taste real good too, right? It's going to taste good, right? If you need your hair stuff, no, go get it from a Black person. Get it from a Black business. Get it from someone who's trying to get it out the mud. Let's put our dollars in our community. And prayerfully, here's the organizational part of my brain. What that lends to is by the time we get to Lent, we want to have 40 days where we're fasting from the oppressor. 40 days where let's not tap into anything that's connected to anything that's not about us. Okay. So let's begin you don't just spring that on somebody, right? Yeah. Let's create the habits.
I don't think we even know the threads and the fingers of our connection to, Absolutely. So that takes some thought.
It takes some thought just to be thinking about as we get, let's just have 40 days away from the thing. I know where I'm at. Me personally, I don't push anybody towards the thing, but I definitely know where I'm at. come the beginning of Lent, my phone ain't going to be on. I'm off this social media. If I wasn't a pastor, I probably wouldn't even have social media at this point. Listen, because these folk do not have our interest. And it might be free to me, but that doesn't mean it's not free to somebody else. There's someone who benefits from that. And does the person who benefits from it, is that lending to my good? And do I really need it? Do I really need it? It feels good. It's comfortable. And comfort is valuable. But do I need it? Do I really need it? And if I'm doing this, then what am I not doing? And if I'm not doing something I should, then is this a help? You mentioned followers a second ago.
Yeah.
If I'm afraid of losing followers, they're not followers, they're crutches.
Ooh, snap.
If I'm afraid of losing followers.
I didn't know to be taking notes. Okay, I didn't know. But I will when I listen back to it. That is amazing and enlightening and maybe conflict. What's the word I'm looking for? Convicting. Okay.
I care.
Yeah. I love
I want to
that.
connect on all platforms. Before this is over, I'm going to give somebody an invitation to join us in worship at the historic Union Grove Baptist Church, 266 North Champion, where we exalt God, we engage people, and we empower community. I'm absolutely going to do that.
You should.
Right? But be clear, if we're in a moment where we're just participating in our own suffering, the birdie that we were talking about, she knows because I say it regularly. Listen, I pay for Tylenol. I do not pay for headaches. I don't. I don't. What are we doing? And they need us more than what we realize. Yeah. And I just think that this is the moment. Our babies, my God, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, but our babies are going to look back on this moment and be able to say, no, they turned away from all of that. No, they just said they were going to stop. They refused to participate with this foolishness. And they did it in the name of their God and their people. And that's how we move forward. That's the time I'm on.
That's some good time.
That's the time I'm on.
That's some good time. Wow.
Real talk.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up. Daggone it. There's more to say, but maybe we'll have another conversation.
Whenever you have me, it'd be my pleasure.
Let me tell you what we're drinking, folks. We're doing a mocktail for the pastor today. It's
Amen.
early.
It's a mocktail.
It's a mocktail. There is no other spirit in this thing but the Holy Spirit. Okay, so we've got some orange juice, grapefruit juice. I did a little bit of ginger beer and just garnished it with lime and orange. Very refreshing and light. I hope you enjoy.
Oh, I did.
Cheers. Can we reach each other?
I can reach my arms along.
Okay.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. All right, good folks. Sorry, I just took some ice in my mouth.
I did too, but it was really good.
This has been an amazing episode of Tales from the Shaker. Thank you so much to ponder over, so much to be inspired by. I am confident that anyone who chooses to tune into this episode is going to find something to inspire them, something to shake them up. And hopefully I get to talk to you, find out what you've doing, how it's moved your life, what has shaken you up and caused you to learn a new thing or do a new thing or find a purpose or a passion. That's our hope here. So thanks for joining.